Hey, Cameron here, continuing coverage of the Surface Duo. Now in this video I wanted to go over 6 different gotchas with the Surface Duo that I was concerned about initially, and also some mitigations to those concerns. So the first one that I was worried about is this device would be too hard to use one-handed. You pull it out of your pocket, you're going to have to use 2 hands to open it up, and then that's a point of friction. Sometimes you're either walking hard or running, and you want to pull out of the packet and look at it quickly. So one of the things that you need to understand about this device is it has Gorilla Glass on every single screen. So it is totally a valid concept to leave your device completely unfolded like this, and then it's just as easy as any other phone to pull out of your pocket and unlock it and start using it, and you're ready to go. So the other concern that I had with this device was the fact that maybe when you go to text message or message anyone, that you would have this super wide, and look, oh, my thumb can't reach all the way to the edge of the screen. But that's easily mitigated inside this application because Microsoft SwiftKey actually has really great modes for this. So let's just go over that super quickly. So if you click this button right here, you can switch to a one-hand mode. And that makes it a lot easier to use it one-handed. And you can even adjust this further if you want to. Click this resize button and you can actually pull that all the way to the side. And then suddenly you can type really easily, I mean as well as you could on any other phone. So that was one of the things that I was concerned about, is if I did pull this out with one hand, what would that experience be like? So one more thing, so the gestures are set up in such a way that you can really use all of those gestures even one-handed and get to the things that you want to get to. So one-handed usage, while not as easy as on a smaller phone, it's not something that's going to completely throw you off. So let's look at gotcha number 2, that the Surface Duo is going to be too wide. So let's do a little comparison. So if we take the Surface Duo and hold it up to the Note 20, if you can see that the Note 20 Ultra is really just a little bit thinner than it. Granted, the Note 20 Ultra is a big phone, but the Surface Duo is just a tiny bit wider than it. I mean, maybe ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch wider, but yet it's also quite a bit height-wise smaller than the Note 20. So it is not as big as it may seem. And the only time it looks mostly weird, in my estimation, is when someone holds it up to their ear to actually make a call. It may look a little strange at that point because it looks like a little Nintendo DS or something. And then you hold it up to your ear and it's like, oh, okay. Okay, so another place where the Surface Duo has been catching a lot of flack is for the camera itself. And I did a video on how to reliably swap this from selfie mode to the secondary screen mode, or forward-facing mode. And the trick is you just have to make sure that you give enough inertia that the phone knows, yeah, they did a flip. So as long as you are flipping the phone, it's actually just fine. But now let's go ahead and look at the actual camera quality, because if we compare something like the Surface Duo to the Note 20 Ultra, look at this giant camera array versus the dinky little camera we have on the Surface Duo. It's kind of no contest when you're actually using that back camera. And we'll look at some comparison screenshots, but let's go ahead and look at something else, because the Note 20 Ultra does not have a front-facing camera that is any better than the Surface Duo. So when you're using the selfie mode, which you do for video conferencing and for lots of other use cases, let's compare the Note 20 Ultra. Here is a front-facing picture that I took on the Note 20 Ultra, and you can see it right there. Now let's look at one on the Surface Duo. And if we zoom in on both of these pictures, the Surface Duo picture here compared to the Note 20 Ultra, the Surface Duo has a lot more detail in the image than the Note 20 Ultra. And in fact, if we go ahead and look at this Zelda box on the Note 20 Ultra versus the Surface Duo. Look how much detail you're getting on the box on the Surface Duo versus the Note 20 Ultra. So I would posit that the front-facing camera on the Surface Duo is actually better than the Note 20 Ultra. And so for productivity purposes, the Surface Duo actually has a better camera. So that's something to keep in mind. But let's look at the rear-facing camera on the Note 20 compared to the rear facing on the Surface Duo. So you're looking at a video that's in 1080p, right? So let me just swap back and forth between these two pictures. One's the Surface Duo, one's the Note 20 Ultra. Are you seeing too much of a difference? I mean, yeah, a trained eye can make it out. So if you are just taking casual photography, yes, you don't have a zoom, but no, it's not horrible enough that you couldn't take pretty decent pictures with it. So, but let's get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty. So on the Note 20 Ultra, if we zoom into this chalkboard back here, you can see how clear those letters are. If you do that on the Surface Duo, you can see they're quite a bit more grainy. Sorry, I lost my place there. Let's get back. You can see how grainy these letters are versus the Note 20, which actually has very clear representation. You can see the grain in the rock and the grain on the plastic of this playhouse, where on the Surface Duo, not so much. The megapixels are way less. Quite a bit of the details being lost. So yes, the Note 20 Ultra has a way better rear-facing camera, but that rear-facing camera competes quite well when it's being used as the selfie camera for video conferencing, and does outperform the Note 20 selfie camera. So something to keep in mind, that there's a lot of nuances to cameras, and for video conferencing, you're actually going to pick up the Surface Duo to have a clearer picture than you would even the Note 20 Ultra. Alright, issue number 4. The software is too janky to use. The biggest thing that I see people calling jank is not really software bugs. It's just not understanding how the gestures work, and the more you use it, the more you get acquainted with what you need to be doing to actually make things work. So I'm going to demonstrate a few things here. So if you want to go full screen, just slide in. Key is to be patient. Wait until it sees, yep, that's what I want it to do, and boom, you've gone full screen. Take it out. You want on this screen? Okay, no. Want on this screen? Okay. Where you run into issues is sometimes you're swiping or doing different things, and you aren't doing exactly right. I don't want to blame the user on this, but because this is such a new platform, working with two screens independently is something that hasn't been done before. it's something that you have to kind of get used to. So let's go over the basic gestures really quick. So to get your menu, swipe up. Pretty easy. You can swipe it back down. If you want to get a list of open applications, swipe up from the bottom but hold, and then let go. Now you've got all your open programs that you might want to use. Alternatively, if you want to clear an application, get back to the home screen, just slide all the way up and clear it. From your home screen, if you want to get search or more recently used apps, just tap in the middle and pull down. And that's going to get you your frequently used apps and a search bar. And if you don't want to use it, just clear it. And you're done. The biggest thing to kind of understand is context, though, because sometimes maybe you have an open application, and if you want to go back, rather than reaching up over there to the middle, you can swipe in from the side to go back. Pretty easy to do. But you would think, oh, I'll swipe in the side from up here. But no, if you want to go back on the left screen, you swipe from the left side. So left side or right side, depending on where you're at. So those are some things you have to get used to. But when you actually think it through, it really makes sense. And here's the ultimate kicker. So if you are just not wanting to handle that, just go ahead and go into your settings, go into your system, click gestures, and change your gesture navigation to 3-button navigation. And guess what? You now have buttons on the bottom and no more jankiness. You got a back button that's always going to work. You've got your multi-window button that's always going to work the way it does on any other Android device. And you're back to square one, and it's nothing to worry about. So there have been a few cases in certain software stacks where I've gotten into a big screen and some of the back gestures don't work. So there are some improvements, but for a day one brand new style of device, I don't think saying, oh, the software's jank is really, I don't think it's valid. And once you understand those commands and gestures, I think you'll be pretty pleased with how it works for you. So let's get to concern number 5, no NFC. And for me, the biggest thing was the fact that I couldn't do NFC payments. And I was pretty bummed about that because I do NFC payments quite a bit. But what I realized was all the Galaxy Wear has been converted to work with normal Android phones. So what that means is my Buds Live work, my Watch Active works, and I have payments. So I literally have Samsung Pay on my watch that I wear my watch every day anyways. So that's actually not an issue for me on the NFC. It would be nice to have. I would definitely want to see that in the future. Okay, so the final gotcha I have with the Surface Duo is the speaker. The speaker is not very good. It's actually plenty clear when you hear it, but it's not loud enough. I've joined Zoom meetings and I could not hear what people were saying on this device. I was really excited to use it because I had my Zoom going on one side, I had my notes up on the other side, and I was ready to get in there and start taking some notes while being in my Zoom meeting. And I could barely hear what they were saying. I mean, I could hear what they were saying, but it was not comfortable. I had to lean in. My ambient noise was kind of high because I was in a working environment, and that made it a little difficult. So that is the biggest problem that I see with this device. The speaker really needs some work. I think that potentially is something that could be done in software, because the other issue I have with it is even at the max level it's not loud enough, but also when you're at the minimum notch level it's too loud. You want to just have a very, if you're watching a video and it's nighttime, you don't want to wake up someone you're sitting in the bed with. Even on the lowest level, this thing is fairly loud. You can't get a really soft noise out of the speaker. So I think that particular piece could be mitigated via software. Hopefully Microsoft can take a look at that. So there we have it, the Surface Duo and its quirks and gotchas. And I think most of those can be mitigated quite nicely with mostly a little bit of know-how on how to handle the device. I in my own life was expecting to kind of review this unit and then send it back to Microsoft because I didn't think it would work for me on a day-to-day basis. But it really has. As I've used it the past few days, I've become more and more impressed with this device to the point where I'm actually going to pick it over a Note 20 Ultra, which I think is saying something for people who will actually utilize the screen space, that like the capability of running two apps at once. I think it's a game changer.